Welcome to Celtic State of Mind. I'm John Dykes, and once again I am joined by Kevin Graham for yet another disappointing night in European football for Celtic. Kevin, what do you make of that?
Wow, there's how many times, I think it was Morris, it says stop me if you've seen this one before, and how many times we're going to see a collapse of, it's no Titanic proportions, but it's like, how many times are we going to get ourselves back into a game, look the better side, then naivety, be disjointed, throw the game again? Look, we just need to go back. Cluj, it happened, we got ourselves back into the game, we ended up getting beat, was it 3-1, 4-1, can't I remember. Copenhagen, get ourselves back into the game completely. I blame the Copenhagen game I blame the Copenhagen result on the fact that we got emotional and we chased the second goal when we didn't need to. We should have let the game go to extra time. The night we've got no excuse with that. Ferencváros game, we've got no excuse. What we saw the night is everything that is wrong with what we can term Lenny ball. That defending is absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And it's not as if it's a one-off. I've just rhymed off 4 games in Europe where we've been completely caught at the back, 2-on-2. How can you get left 2-on-2 at the back in 4 games against opposition? Right, come on, let's not beat about the bush here. We actually got schooled tonight off a team of young guys, reserves and nobodies. We got absolutely schooled. From the most unfancied side in the group. Uh-huh.
You know, so it wasn't as if you were up against a second string or a weakened Lille side, and Lille look very impressive. They've got a great result tonight against Milan. Last I seen, they were 3-0 up. This was the unfancied side of the group, Kevin. They've gone out at Celtic Park. We've now been, defeated 3 times in a row at home. Not sure when the last time that happened was. First time since 1983 someone scored a hat-trick at Celtic Park. We've just been pummeled 4-1. I mean, going back to the point I made at half-time, now I'm expecting plenty of Celtic fans to get involved in this broadcast tonight, and quite rightly so as well, because it's so disappointing. We're sitting there at half-time, 2-0 down, we haven't been at the races, Kevin. And it's not I told you so, it's just typical poor decision-making on a tactical level, on a managerial level. Let's go out and see if it just resolves itself. 58 minutes in, it's not resolved itself. So we'll make a substitution. What was the spark we saw? It was directly after the substitutions were made. That's when we saw Celtic's part of the game where they actually looked promising, like they might have got something out of the game. The fight back was on. 2-1 down, we're chasing a second goal. We lose the ball, and it's El Hamid who loses the ball. We're on the attack when we lose the ball. They break away. Who is to blame in defence? Who gets robbed at the back? Who is looking like the worst signing of the season? And I'm saying that because I've heard all the excuses, Kevin. I've heard the excuses. I've heard that he was injured, he shouldn't have played against Rangers. I've heard that he's not played in 9 months. He's come in, he's been thrown in. I've had a lot of sympathy for him. Shane Duffy isn't good enough, and he's shown that again tonight. He's up against someone running towards him, and it's taken him half an hour to turn round. The boy's in, and it's gone. The game's gone. So it was shades of AC Milan. We're chasing a 2-2, we're 3-1 down. It gets worse.
It's shades of AC Milan, it's shades of Ferencváros, it's shades of Cluj, it's shades of Copenhagen, it's shades of no learning your mistakes in Inverness in 2011. It's what you get with a Neil Lennon football team. It is what you get, it is what it is. Now, when we got ourselves, I mean, he got a reaction, right? The subs, you can argue all you want about he made the subs too late.
And I will argue because it's his MO, Kevin.
And I'm not defending anything, but we got back into that game. We got back into that game with the better players on the pitch, and we should have enough to either equalise or go on to win that game. I says at half time that goal, that the next goal was all important. We got it and they looked dead on their feet. And what do we give them? We give them oxygen. We give them oxygen by allowing them to break away 3-on-2 because we've got a shape of trying to herd cats. There's no shape. There's no defensive shape whatsoever. Our two fullbacks, I mean, you talk about El Hamed lost the ball. El Hamed's our third centre half and he's actually standing on the edge of their opposition box.
Yep.
Our two fullbacks are up. Right, Duffy got roasted. I'm going to admit that. But you've got a slow, cumbersome centre half panicking because it's like the charge of the light brigade coming at him. He doesn't ken what to do. Beaton doesn't ken what to do.
But Kevin, at 28 years of age, you're an international captain. You should know how to deal with an attack. It's defensive basics. He's failing in the most fundamental way as a defender at Celtic Park, time and time and time again. And I'll tell you, in the next game against Motherwell, which is a must-win league game for Celtic, I wouldn't even play him. And if that means playing with Beaton and El Hamed, I've got no confidence in Shane Duffy. None.
His confidence is gone, but they will play him. I can't see.
Until when? How many games do we lose? How many goals does he sell before we realise that he's not good enough? And it's been a huge error.
Him on Sunday, that's his Celtic career over.
I wouldn't go as far as that. I'm looking at the moment as a game-by-game basis, and I know that Motherwell, we cannot drop a thing against Motherwell. We just can't do it, Kevin. Under this run of games, we just can't do it. Going into the international break, potentially, 12 points behind? Cannot allow that to happen. We've got to win that game at Fir Park.
I've got to win it before the night anyway, so nothing changes on Sunday.
But I'm more concerned now.
We're still.
I'm more concerned now, Kev, than I was 90 minutes ago.
I'm more concerned now as well, and that's a horrible, horrible result. And you can't say it didn't reflect the good chances that Sparta Prague had. And we've got to give credit to Sparta Prague. They were fantastic. They picked us off on and off the park. Mm-hmm. As I say, we were completely schooled by a team that of reserve team players, youth players, a team that played with a freedom, an identity and a style that we just couldn't handle. But it's not just Sparta Prague have done it. Sparta Prague have just watched the games that we've played, and I'm going to say these four names again. Cluj, Ferencváros, the three names, Cluj, Ferencváros and Copenhagen. They've watched these games and just done it again. And that is what is unforgivable.
Because you're continually making the same errors.
Because you're continually making the same mistakes.
Yep.
Now, I'm not going to go back over what I've said. I don't think there's going to be any major comeback for this.
What are you talking in terms of managerial?
Managerial.
Right. Because it's no one result you're referring to here, Kevin.
No, it's no one result. I think it was quite clear after the Aberdeen game, the way Lennon came out swinging, the way Neil Lennon came out swinging on the Tuesday, that he had got the backing from the man that he needs the backing from. And I can't see that changing, but he's got a hell of a job to pick that dressing room up. Between now and an early morning game on Sunday.
The big thing for me, Kevin, and by the way, I'm on the same page as you. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I just the Duffy thing. I'm at the end of my tether with that. You know, we've been very patient. We're looking at all the issues that might be contributing to his poor performances.
I'm at the end of my tether. We're watching a Xerox every time we play a game in Europe.
Yep,
I'm at the end of my tether with that.
Well, you know, you're chasing a 2-2, and at that point, you know, you're looking at Lille hammering Milan in Milan, and you're thinking, what a result. But the team that played and the discipline that we showed and the structure and the shape that we had against Lille was non-existent tonight, Kevin.
I know.
And that, I'm bemused at that.
It's like watching completely two different teams.
I know.
And that's down to how we prepare. You can only say that is down to how we prepare for the game.
But again, you put the team out there, and before the game, I can't deny it, I had no arguments with the team that we lined up with. But if it's not working, it's the inability to change it. So at half time, right, you know, you clear the decks, start again, it's not working. And it's leaving it to 58 minutes, almost an hour. It's Lenny's MO, time and time again. By then, you get back into the game, you could have been in the game 10 minutes earlier. you know. And that's my biggest frustration tonight.
You could have been, and I'm not going to defend it, but what I would actually say, when the subs came on, the subs actually changed the game in our favour. What I'm really, really more concerned about is the fact is how we let the game slip away from us again.
Aberdeen Pittodrie.
How we let the game slip away from us.
Going back to what you said though, Kev, it's not learning from your mistakes. Game management.
We let the game slip away from us again. And even then, when we went 3-1 down, there's still 12, 13 minutes left. There was no reaction. There was nothing. The body language went. It's really, really puzzling after the good first half that we had. It's really, really frustrating. But am I surprised that a side managed by Neil Lennon is up and down? No, I'm not. I'm really not. And
you better be careful, because people will start calling you spoilt and entitled and a panty wetter, because that's what happens when you criticise the Celtic side managed by Neil Lennon.
Anybody, the men who appointed Neil Lennon would have knew what you were getting. And watching that tonight, a great start, going a goal down, no getting, then gone completely shapeless. Getting yourself back into the game, then gone completely shapeless again and heartless, is a template and a blueprint, a green print, as you will, that we've seen time and time again under this management team.
So predictable.
So I didn't think we should be sitting here surprised anymore that we can go out and shite the bed like that.
But do we just continually take that? Do we just continue into the unknown or the known on Sunday, thinking, well, you know what, we know what we're getting, or, you know, it's either all sugar or all shite. That's what we're getting with this team. And if we get the shite on Sunday, then you're facing a 12-point deficit. Now that for me is something that's unthinkable.
We're gambling on getting sugar all the time, eh? That's what we're gambling on. We're gambling on that our front four absolutely blow away teams.
Yeah.
Because we haven't got a defensive shape there to actually keep the wins out of close.
Correct. At 3-1, Kev, as you say, there's still some time to go. The ball comes to McGregor. He toes it and just hopes for the best. Griffiths goes up to win a header, and I turned round to you and said, we are devoid of any shape, of any ideas. And at the beginning of the game, at the start of the game, you're looking at that forward line. You're looking at the banks, the three banks behind Edouard. You're looking at the two guys going up the wings. That should be a frightening proposition for any team. And they gave us nothing.
We rely on individuality.
Gave us very little, sorry.
We rely on individuality.
Now,
we do rely on individuality. But as I says after the Aberdeen game, sometimes that's not enough.
No.
Sometimes you've got to have a plan there where you're greater than the sum of your parts.
Well, Wayne Jackson, good point, and we will be coming to your points, because on a night like tonight, it's important that obviously Kevin and I are disappointed, and there's going to be loads of disappointment among the Celtic fans, so this is a platform for you to air your views. And Wayne says via YouTube, thank God we never made the Champions League. Another embarrassing performance tonight. Now, before we go any further, what I would like to say, just during that second half, I got some devastating news about a big pal of mine, Ryan Werner, Big Rev from Oakley, 42 years of age. He died today, heart attack. And Big Rev was on my very first Celtic bus, Kev. I've known him since I was just a wee boy. Terrible, terrible news. God bless him and all his family, and all the Celtic fans out there that know him. But as I say, it's a sad, sad night in that respect, and it's a sad night for Celtic, because I'm not seeing any progress, Kevin. We've got some, promise against Lille. We've got some promise against Aberdeen. They've got triple treble still on. We're going to have to watch what we're doing, or the turn of the roll will be off.
I think it was a gamble to appoint Neil Lennon. Yes, it was. But again, I'm going to go back to the people who appointed them knew what we were going to get. We knew that we could have two. Was anybody really surprised that we had that performance in Lille? That a Neil Lennon team managed to do that in Lille?
I was astonished.
No, I wasn't. Because you've seen a Neil Lennon side do that before.
It's the first time we've seen it this season, Kev.
It's the first time we've seen it this season. Is anybody astonished that we can be so bad? No, because we've seen it plenty of times before. Would anybody be really astonished if we went out and bet Motherwell comfortable on Sunday? No. But would anybody also be really astonished if we went out and absolutely were horrific?
But we can't operate like that. We can't function like that. That's dysfunctional. You can't go into a game like Motherwell on Sunday, going into an international break already, losing ground on the league leaders, and just think to yourself, well, if we don't turn up today, we're not going to get a win. We're not going to get. We just can't function like that, Kevin. If you're going for 10 in a row, and we know how important that is, not just from the prestige, not just from the historical perspective of it, but from a financial level, we know how important 10 in a row is. I think we're gambling. I think we're gambling every single week at the moment.
It looks that way. You can't argue with how it looks to everybody out there. You can't argue with how we're playing or no playing. It's just, as you're saying, there's so much riding on this season. And the players have to have a look at themselves as well. The guys on that pitch tonight, they let the manager down extremely badly. But once again, the manager and the coaching staff let themselves down really badly by making the same mistakes that they've made time and time again.
I'm not going to take any opportunity, Kevin, ever to say I told you so if I'm proved right. By the same token, if we win everything in sight, we win 10 in a row, I'll take it on the chin and say I was wrong in relation to some comments I made during and after the Aberdeen game at Pittodrie, because I've been frustrated with Celtic's performances all season long. Now, when we're looking at a performance and a result like tonight, which more or less ends your European campaign this season, Kevin, and the big issue I've got with that is you just don't switch it on. So you don't switch on the performance overnight, or the momentum, or the attitude, or the mood of the camp, and all this kind of thing. You just don't switch it on after a night like tonight. So this is us preparing for Sunday and the all-important 10 in a row. Where does this leave Neil Lennon? Now, I made my comments quite clear the other week, and I was lambasted to the point where brutally lambasted, Kevin. You know the extent of that abuse. What else? Do you just hope that the good version turns up on Sunday? Because to be honest with you, I don't think a club like Celtic should be basically based on just hoping that they turn up.
I think what you've got to look at are the guys who 2 Mondays ago I listed the people who make the decisions in their club, the list of failures that they've had when they've had open goals at the Champions League, the decisions that they've made during that time. The only part of this football club that has worked has been under Brendan Rodgers, and even then, but the part worked because we had 2 years in the Champions League under Brendan, so that was fine. The only part that's worked has been the selling the players. How many times have we missed? Was it 2 Champions Leagues in 10 years? We try to sell ourselves as a Champions League club. What I'm basically going a long-winded way round to actually saying is, I don't think they'll make the decision, because they made the decision to appoint Neil Lennon in the shower on the 25th of May 2019, knowing full well what you were getting.
Well, I don't know, because it's reared its ugly head this season, Kevin. It's this season that I feel that there's been a problem. Now, people may go back to the first half of last season and obviously how it was turned round, and the trip to Dubai and the capitulation of Rangers, the nearest challengers, and all these different things. But I think it's this season that's been the problem. I didn't have the same concerns last season.
They know. The people who make the decisions, Neil Lennon and that, will know what goes on behind the scenes. Right? And we're not saying that there's stuff going on behind the scenes, but you can't see a team as up and down as that and no think to yourself what's going on there. How many times, I think we've lost 13 goals in 6 games. The majority of them have been for crossballs and counter-attacks, because we've got no shape. There's no shape there. There doesn't seem to be any sort of clue what we're meant to do at set plays or when we lose the ball. We seem to get caught with everybody up the park. Everybody just seems to, we'll just attack and we'll see what actually happens. That's simplifying it. That is really, really simplifying it. No, I'm going to put something out there. And bear with me with this, and it's no maybe my opinion, and this is maybe going to look like really bad on what I'm about to say, but Neil Lennon, Celtic class themselves as a Champions League club wrongly. Where else would Neil Lennon get a job in football?
I'm not even thinking that far ahead, Kevin.
No, I'm not even thinking. What I'm saying is, you look at the Celtic manager, you look at Brendan Rodgers, right? We need to go back to Brendan. You knew that Brendan would get a job in English Premiership. You always knew.
But it was different in that he came to us with that as part of his master plan.
He came with that in mind.
We were just a stepping stone.
Let's have a look over the city, right? Let's have a look over the city. Steven Gerrard's going to get a job in England.
Again, he's trying to use Rangers as a stepping stone.
But he's going to get a job in England, right? If you see yourself as a big club, for me, your manager has got to be in demand with other big clubs. Can anybody out there see that happening with our coaching staff? I'm not just going to blame Neil Lennon. I'm going to have a go at our whole coaching staff.
Well, they're all responsible. They're all responsible for this absolute slump in performances and in form.
Can you see any team in England, Europe, or whatsoever looking at the Celtic set-up and coaching staff and going, I quite fancy them?
No, I don't. But Kevin, I made my view clear on what I thought should have happened. And since then, all I've heard is that you can't make a change in this season because it'll be even more disruptive. But my biggest fear now, and I'm not making any rash claims or predictions or any of this, but my biggest issue and my biggest fear is that all too often this season, we've not had the good Lenny, we've not had the good Celtic playing under Lenny. We've had far too often the Celtic that turned up tonight. Mm-hmm. And they're a shadow of the side that we've seen for an hour against Lille or, at the weekend against Aberdeen. A shadow of that side. And we've not seen it enough. Now, how many games are we into the season? We've played every single league team once. We've played numerous games in Europe. And people just keep telling me that it's panic if you've got a concern. I don't think it is. We go into that game against Motherwell, you ask yourself, right, Duffy was abysmal tonight. Okay? Poor game. Scott Baines just let in 4 goals. Your £4.5 million goalkeeper sitting on the bench tonight. So what do you do on Sunday? Do you play the same team again? Do you let them prove yourself? I don't think so. You've got to make changes. So what changes do you make? Do you drop the goalie? Then this dysfunctional nature of the Celtic side continues because you're making changes week in, week out. You're making changes into that leaky defence. I says to you there, before the end of the game, I dropped Duffy for Sunday. The boy, I don't know what it's down to. I just don't think, from what I've seen since he came to Celtic, if I'm just basing it on that, Kevin, not good enough.
It's another European night like AC Milan where he just doesn't look up to that level.
But he's not looked up to that level domestically. I know, Sunday maybe was one of his better games, but I just don't think he's looked up to that level since he came up. The whole furore of him signing, that he was a player we all wanted, Shane Duffy. We spoke to Spencer Vignes, the Brighton and Hove Albion author, to find out more about him. He comes in, scores a couple of goals. The no-nonsense defender that we needed. There's plenty of nonsense going on in that defence, mate.
There is, and you can't blame. I just don't think you can actually blame the whole defence. I think you have to blame the defensive shape of the team. And a lot of our poor performances this season have come from the front four no clicking. And we usually defend for the front. And we usually work well from the front. And I haven't seen that in many games. I haven't seen a really good press in many games, which was a feature of a good Neil Lennon side, where we actually defended on the front foot. And that's just, when it doesn't happen, it's horrible to watch. It's like a burst balloon when it doesn't work. And that's what it feels like. I'm going to go back to balloons here, eh? You're either hoping that your balloon soars or it doesn't get burst. And more often we're just getting burst.
Now, there's plenty of comments coming through, but what I would say is that anyone who just says, and this is what I was hearing a couple of weeks ago, Kevin, get behind the manager, back the manager, support the manager. If you do that, you're ignoring these inept performances. And if you ignore the inept performances, they will continue. So you can't have that blind loyalty to anyone. If someone's not doing their job properly, Kevin, and then people might say, it's down to the players. But what are you going to do? Drop the 11 of them and start again? You can't do it. We went into the transfer window and we strengthened the squad and we kept every single player. In a transfer window, everybody predicted that we were going to lose at least one of the big names.
Somebody in the comments says today that he had read a comment with Neil Lennon, and Lennon had says he used to deal with 20-year-old men, now he deals with 30-year-old boys. And I found that quite interesting. And what you're saying there about what does he do? Does he drop Bain for Barkers? Does he drop Duffy? That's what will be going through his head. Can he handle it? Can he get this team playing again? I mean, I've got everything crossed that everything's all right on Sunday. Have I got any faith that everything will all right on Sunday? Ask me on Saturday. I probably will have faith that everything will come good again. But I won't have the total blind faith. Do
you have the belief though? Faith and belief?
No, faith and belief are two different things.
Exactly, but you need to have the belief. This is Celtic here. We're going for 10 in a row. You can't just play Russian roulette with this. You can't just go into a game at Fir Park and just hope for the best and hope that we don't get the team we've seen tonight. Because all too often we are getting that. That's
where we are. We are going into these games.
Well, it's not good enough then, Kevin.
We are going into these games hoping that we turn up. Well, that's for me, that's a disastrous plan. If that is your plan, it's going to end in disaster. And I always use the example. Remember, Big Simunovic gets sent off against Rangers at Ibrox, and instantly the manager knew exactly what move 2, move 3 and move 4 was. He knew every contingency. And you looked over at Murray and he was doing something like that. Not a clue. He doesn't know what's happening next. And we're in a situation now where I'm not quite sure that our management knows what's happening next. What's the contingency? You go in at half time, you make the change. He leaves it until about an hour. You could almost put money on that, Kevin. He was going to leave it. It's too late. And once the change is made, lo and behold, we see a bit of spark in the team. We see improvement in the team when the change is made. It was obvious at half time to anybody watching that first half. It wasn't working. Make the change. It's the same mistakes time and time again. It is the same mistake, and I'm not going to disagree with that because the change got the reaction. But I'm more annoyed at the fact is when we get yourself back into the game, we completely throw it away again. We just been an utter mess, and we were an utter mess. I mean, basically, we've been absolutely scalped tonight, and 4-1 flatters us. Really, when you look at the chances they've missed.
Well, there's certainly a couple of chances that Bain stopped. And I think, Kevin, the thing is as well, you know, I'm well aware of having an overreaction to any one individual result. This isn't one result. This is time and time again. And it's not just in Europe. This is a big thing also. It's domestically. The performances haven't been good enough. Even though we've not lost many games domestically, the performances haven't been there. And I've seen quite a few comments coming in tonight saying that, you know, who cares about Europe?
Nah, that's rubbish.
This goes back to the momentum point that I made at the beginning of the game, Kevin. The momentum that we got from the Lille performance allowed us to go into the Aberdeen game with confidence. I'm now going into that Motherwell game. Celtic are now going into that Motherwell game having been trounced 4-1. And I'm not going to call them minnows. They're certainly not minnows. But they are the supposed weakest team. But we're the ones at the bottom of the league, in the Europa League.
As I said in the pre-match, tonight the management team would have been looking for momentum, minutes and the moments. And they got none of it. Well, some of the players got minutes. But we never had any big moments, and the momentum has now completely disappeared.
What do you think was missing? If you look at the last game in the Europa League against Lille, for me, the best performance we've had this season. And yes, we did switch off. I think a big part of that was down to Ayer getting injured and coming off, and the shape kind of was lost then. When he came off, we were 2-0 up, Kev. I think Ayer gets a lot of bad press, but by God, we miss him.
But again, you can go on about the changes getting made too late last week.
I
still believe
20 minutes too late.
I still believe our game management was wrong last week.
Yeah, despite the performance, you're right.
Despite the performance.
83 minutes. Was it 83 minutes that the three midfielders who were blown out their arse, that's when it happened. Mm-hmm. That should have happened 20 minutes before. That should have happened 20 minutes before.
Again, I'm not going to argue with that. I can't argue with that. It's there for everybody to see. But we can sit here and moan all we want. There's not going to be any change. We're still going to need to actually just hope the coaching staff pick the team up for Sunday and get on with it.
Someone's just made a comment using the word scab, and to be honest with you, when your dad's been a striking minor in 1984-85, I'm not having that, so you're blocked. I don't care who you support, mate. That's unacceptable. Stephen James 187, I would rather have Simunovic than Duffy. That's a strange one. The Duffy situation is a big question, and it's a question that Neil Lennon needs to answer, and he needs to answer it on Sunday, Kevin. We're going into that game. I don't actually know if Ayer's going to be fit. We've got Duffy, we've got Welsh, Elhamed and Beaton, who can all play centre half. There's a question in relation to the shape of the defence and the personnel. There's also a question around the goalkeeper after tonight. If you let 4 goals in, there's a question on the goalkeeper. So let's have a look ahead to Sunday, because, you know, that is going to be all the discussion between now and then, Kevin.
More questions in an episode of 15 to 1, eh?
Well, there you go. What happens on Sunday? How do you shape up? How do you try and stop? I mean, back in the 90s, we called it the sieve. Not the view called it the sieve. The sieve's back. That's the worst defence we've had in a long time, Kevin.
I know. The days of Effie Ambrose and Virgil van Dijk seem so far away. Or that night in 2012 against Barcelona when the 2 centre-halves were Kelvin Wilson and Effie Ambrose. What do we do on Sunday?
Yeah.
3 points.
How do you attain that? We're coming up against a manager who, I think I've said in the past, I do think he's very, very good, Robinson. But made the comment that I think he was in the territory of the Tommy Wright, whereby the team that he was at had hit a ceiling, and Tommy Wright probably overstayed by a couple of seasons. Stephen Robinson, I thought, was at that stage maybe about 18 months ago. But he's setting his side up pretty well this season, Kevin. And we need to be at our best. I mean it. We need to be at our best at Fir Park to get a result on Sunday. So it's fine, go and get a win. How are we going to get that win?
I'm going to get,
because a result like that saps the life and the confidence and the energy out of players.
This is going to sound flippant because I've got so many things going through in my head, but everybody that's watching, how do we get a result? Just pray to whatever God that you actually believe in or didn't believe in, and hope for the best. Well, again, not good enough for Celtic. That's you need to have a strategy, Kevin, and that's what's missing. There's no strategy. Right, so the shape doesn't work tonight, so you change it, but there's no strategy. But then do you change the shape back to a 3-5-2 when you haven't got the fullbacks to play a 3-5-2? Well, you do. You've got to look at the situation as it is, and it's not working, so you change it. Now, if that's personnel, you make the change, right? You make the change at 58 minutes, and it works. The change worked at 58 minutes. Make it on 45. Go into the second half. So we're after the event now. We can actually see that the change worked. Mm-hmm. Why leave it till an hour into the game? It's the same mistakes getting made time and time again. It is the same mistakes getting made time and time again. It's quite a weird connection, eh? After Bratislava, we went to Fir Park as well and drew 4 each. I know, and that wouldn't be good enough this week. No, it wouldn't be. A draw's not good enough. And I'm trying to remember if Stratton made... Did Stratton made well, he dropped the goalie, did he not? No, it was after the 4-4 game that Boric came in for the return leg, Bratislava. Anyway, it's poor. It's very, very poor, and you get that little bit of hope from an hour against Lille and then the victory against Aberdeen. You get a little bit of hope that it can be turned around. I'm now looking at it and I'm concerned that it can't be. Whatever hope that you had, that you're back now staring at the feelings that you had losing that last minute goal at Pittodrie. The way we defended that day as well. When you look at the penalty kick we gave away at Pittodrie, that was pure panic. Look at the goals that we gave away the night on the breakaway, pure panic. Yep. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no shape. There doesn't seem to be any understanding of how we defend when we haven't got the ball, where we need to be, where we haven't got the ball. But as I go back to what I said right at the start, this is what we get. This is what we've seen under this coaching staff. And unless there's going to be a change, we'll see it time and time again. Right. But then again, if you actually call for change, Kevin, the counter-argument that we had for the best part of 10, 14 days was it's going to be even worse. Who do you bring in?
that just disrupts the team. It disrupts the changing room.
I've just had a thought there. I don't think, if there's going to be any change, I don't think it'll happen till after the cup final. I think they'll give Lennon the chance to be. I think they'll give Neil Lennon the chance to be a treble-winning manager.
Well, listen, Kevin, sentimentality is great, but in football it shouldn't exist. It's all about Celtic. It's not about individuals. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's not about individuals. It's about the club, it's about success. Now, 10 in a row is big enough going into the season, and prior to the pandemic it was big enough, but it's even bigger now because a lot is riding on it. And we've already lost enough, if you ask me, in terms of the points in the league. We're going into Sunday's game. I've asked you, you failed to tell me your answer. What do you do with the team? You're not going to be back on the show between now and Sunday, so I need to know what would you do? First and foremost, does Bain drop back out?
Barkas comes back in.
He comes back in. Stevie Mullen earlier today was calling for Barkas to start tonight. He gave his reasons for that, very balanced reasons. Barkas comes back in. What do you do with the defence?
Barkas comes back in. I'm going to go Elhamed right back. Duffy, Beaton, Laxalt. In the middle, I'm going McGregor, Brown and Turnbull as a free. And up top, I'm going Christie, Griffiths and Eddie.
There's been quite a few comments coming through in relation to Edouard's performance. I'm going to be try to be as fair as I possibly can on this one, Kevin. No, he didn't perform well, absolutely. But I did say, I think, maybe midway through the second half, probably earlier than that he should have been hooked. I was saying that a lot earlier than he was hooked. But that's down to the fact that, he's been hammered. We were speaking to someone yesterday who had suffered the terrible virus, and he was hammered by it, absolutely hammered by it. And Edouard's just coming back. We can't forget that. And listen, I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm trying to be as balanced as I can here. So Edouard, for me, wasn't the worst player on the pitch tonight.
If it was your opinion that he wasn't trying before he had COVID, then you've seen nothing to change it tonight. Nothing to change it.
I think that's a wee bit harsh.
It is, but if it was your opinion before he had COVID, you've got an easy reason to back up your claim tonight.
I just don't see the end game in doing that. I don't see the end game in Eddie, switching off, checking out. He's got to maintain a level of performance, and in particular in Europe, because as we said before we got into the game, the big clubs that he is hoping to move to eventually aren't going to come and watch you at New Douglas Park, are they? They're going to watch your European games, they're going to watch your international games. So I just don't see the end game in that.
He might have already checked.
I've always thought he's had that language style. I've always thought he's had that unfortunate demeanour of a Samaras who often looked disinterested, as he did.
Samaras wasn't the talisman that what Eddie is to us.
He was in my book, mate. Don't knock Samaras. Now, Jungle Lion, by the time the cup final comes around, Celtic could be 12 to 15 points behind. And again, there's no panic here. That's my concern. My concern is if we continue in this vein, Kevin, where you get a wee pocket of 2 or 3 half-decent results and then a defeat or a draw. That's exactly what's going to happen. We don't have the consistency this season.
No.
We don't have the consistency of team selection. Some forced, some unfortunate through injury and illness. We don't have the consistency of performance or formation or goalkeeper or defence. There's no consistency. It's dysfunctional.
It is dysfunctional. It's like a dysfunctional house. It's like the Madness song, Our House in the Middle of the Street, where it's just absolutely mental. You didn't ken who you're going to find in the kitchen. Like us, we didn't actually ken who we're going to find in goals or up front or in the midfield, or who's going to defend the back post, or if we can actually, who's going to lock the back door.
Well, there's big questions to be answered, and very quickly as well, because Sunday comes round very quickly for Celtic. It's an early kick-off, Kevin. And we'll be here tomorrow for the Bulletin. We'll be here to cover the game on Sunday as well. And I'll be speaking to Jim Orr tomorrow. Jim, again, offers a balanced view when others lose their head. So it'll be interesting to know what Jim's got to say about that.
What I will say just before we actually go is we cannot say, didn't bother Europe, we can't bother about Europe. That is a hammer blow tonight. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't care about the European result.
It's the after effects.
It's the after effects.
It's the performance after that game. It's the momentum. It's the morale. All of these things that affect performances.
It's a dreadful, dreadful hangover that squad's going to have.
Absolutely. It certainly is. Now, just before we go, another big shout out to a big pal of mine, Ryan Werner, 42 years of age. Heart attack today. Big Celtic man, big Rev, rest in peace. Terrible, terrible news. And it was a terrible night for Celtic, all in, Kevin. We're not throwing any toys at the pram. We're looking at it as balanced as possible. I think changes need to be made. Personally, I think Duffy's not playing through this. He's not playing through it. We need to get that change made. And the same issues, the same mistakes are being made time and time again, tactically and from a managerial level. And the players do have to take responsibility for a lot of that, because you can't turn up when you pick and choose to turn up.
I didn't want to see any birthday care rubbish with the players on social media over the next couple of days.
Or the generic tweets.
The generic tweets. Oh, we'll come back stronger. Sorry, apologies. Just go and do it on the park.
Absolutely. That's all. That's where you do your talking, and apparently that's where Celtic do their talking. That was always the mantra. That was always a mantra. But we're not seeing it this season, Kevin. So we will look ahead, and we'll be back at 12:30 tomorrow. We've had a massive audience tonight, and thankfully, the vast majority of the audience have been Celtic fans. There's been a few out of order, but they were ejected out the building, and that will continue as well. We've got somebody full time on the door. We've got a doorman as of Monday, so there'll be less and less non-Celtic fans in the room. Thanks for everybody for getting involved. If you haven't done so already, get subscribed on YouTube. We will be covering every kick of the ball this season and beyond. All that's left for me to say is, once again, Kevin Graham, thank you for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you very much, lads.